Hey there, snow seekers. Whether carving fresh lines on skis, snowboarding through trees, backcountry snowshoeing, or gunning it full throttle up a snowy slope, keep the Adventure Smart 3 T's in mind. Trip planning, training, and taking the essentials. So, what are these essentials? More than gimmicky gadgets, the Avalanche Transceiver, Probe, and Shovel are a life-saving trio. And the difference between getting found or finding your buddy if things go sideways in avalanche country. Transceivers are a super-powered search device for homing in on that needle in a snowstack. A probe is a high-tech poking stick when precision is the name of the game, and the shovel isn't your driveway snowplow. It's a fast, efficient digging machine where every second counts. And just don't pack it, practice it, over and over again. When time is of the essence, you need to know how to use these tools efficiently and effectively. Finally, before venturing out, check the avalanche forecast for your area. Identify high-risk terrain and be that reliable backcountry buddy who makes the right call. So, ride safe and make it back to tell the tale. Follow the 3 T's, pack like a pro, and carry these life-saving tools. In an emergency, call 911 and stay put until help arrives. There's no charge for rescue.
Welcome to the BC Search and Rescue Association's Adventure Smart Expert Webinar Series. Good evening. I'm Scott Montague from Coquitlam Search and Rescue. Tonight, we're joined by Maren Corkery of Mountain Mentors and mentor Sarah Carrier. Got a question about how to motivate others to expand their horizons? How to install safety culture into a gung-ho friend? Toss your questions into the Q&A section on Zoom, and we'll do our best to answer as many as we can, either live or in the chat. And don't forget to mark your question as anonymous if you don't want your name public. Also, keep an eye on the chat box as we may paste some good resources in there as we go. Throughout the evening, you can show your appreciation with the emojis under the reactions button. Let's try it now. Using the reactions, help me welcome our own maven of the mountains, the Executive Director of Adventure Smart BC, Sandra Riches.
Welcome, everyone. Hi, thanks for joining us tonight. We're glad to have you here. We're in the thick of our winter series with our webinars happening every couple of weeks, all winter long. Scott, thanks for that intro. It's always great to have you start it off and help us do what we do here. I'm excited about tonight. We have some great guests that can really enlighten us on quite a few things that I think all of us maybe think about, either do or don't do, wonder about, and maybe wish for, and we don't always know where to go, who to ask, what it looks like. Anyway, this isn't my expertise tonight. It's Sarah's and Maren's, so I'll wait for them to come to the stage to really elaborate on that. But before we do that, I just want to share a few things. Please stick around to the end because you have a chance to win a prize. Thanks to one of the founders of Adventure Smart, which started 20 years ago, Mr. Jim McAllister, who has a lengthy list of credentials. I can't even go down that list right now. But anyway, you can look him up. He's the author of In Search of Recognition, the story of search and rescue in British Columbia. So we have one of his books to give away. Really, really a great read. And as I share a few things about search and rescue in British Columbia, can you please add in the chat where you're sitting? We're really quite curious where people come from to join us. And if you're with your family, with your friends, with other search and rescue volunteers, if you're in British Columbia, if you're outside of British Columbia, if you're outside of Canada, we have had some others join us from across the globe, actually, in different time zones. It's really quite unique. It's great to see where you are. And just a little bit of a shout out to some of our search and rescue volunteers outside of Scott who are here tonight. We have a really healthy team from Metchosin Search and Rescue tonight. So hi, everyone there. I know you're all sitting around your table tonight joining us for a training evening. We really appreciate it. And what a great way to tack some more training on by joining us and learning from our guests tonight. The top 3 reasons of search and rescue in BC, I want you to think about these when you plan your next adventure, no matter what it is, this winter, this summer, down the road, next weekend. I really want you to think about what happens if you get injured, because that's the #1 reason for search and rescue in the province of BC. We collect data on all the tasks in British Columbia, and there's about 1,960. There were 1,960 last year. And number one is injury, lower extremity, usually from slips, trips, and falls. So think about how can you prevent that? You have some good answers. I know you do. This summer, we're going to focus on a few of these how-to prevents. The second most common reason is getting lost or disoriented. How can you and your group prevent from getting lost or disoriented? Are you good with the map and compass? Do you know how to use them together at all? Do you even know how to read and look at a topographical map? These are honest questions with honest answers to yourself and to see how you can sharpen that pencil. The third most common reason is people are exceeding their abilities. That one's a little bit more unique. It's a little bit more about decision making and how we decide individually or as a group to move forward, turn back, go left, go right, climb up, climb down, snowmobile here, hike there, snowshoe over here. These are decisions. And the third most common reason is people go beyond their abilities. That could be training abilities, mental wellness. They didn't have breakfast, bad footwear. Someone's got a horrible blister. That list is unique, isn't it? But it's exceeding abilities nonetheless. So think about those top 3 reasons for search and rescue as you plan your next adventure, as you plan all your adventures, please. I'd like to introduce our first guest. Marin is an uninvited white settler living in the unceded Squamish territory. Growing up in the Edmonton River Valley and hiking in the Rockies sparked a lifelong love of the outdoors. A proud summer friend, she's been both a climbing mentee and a hiking mentor with Mountain Mentors and has served on the board for 6 years. Marin believes mentorship is a powerful way to share skills and build belonging, especially for people underrepresented in outdoor spaces. In her day job, she supports the expansion of inclusion, K-12, school meal programs right across the Sea to Sky corridor. We're really quite fortunate to have you here with us tonight, Marin. The stage is yours, and I look forward to your presentation and everything that you're going to share with us tonight. Thanks for your time.
Amazing. Thanks for that intro, Sandra. I'm just going to pull up my presentation. There we go. Move what I see over here. Perfect. So I'm really excited to be here on behalf of Mountain Mentors as part of the expert webinar series. It's really an honor to be able to share our knowledge in this space, and I'm excited to hear what questions come out of this as well. So before I dive into my presentation, I wanted to acknowledge that Mountain Mentors offers programming on the traditional, unceded, and ancestral territories of the Coquitlam, Kaiket, Kwantlen, Semiahmoo, Tawasin, Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Stolo, Statliam, and Lil'wat peoples. And I'm calling from unceded Squamish territory. And when I like to think about land acknowledgements and how we can move beyond them, especially in the space of outdoor recreation, something that I try and practice, whether I'm in my home community or when I'm traveling, is learning more about the indigenous territories that I'm recreating on, and that includes learning about some of the different place names. So a really great resource for that is the Squamish Atlas. If you are based in the Squamish area, it's an amazing online resource that can tell you about the different place names in Squamish Sneecham. And I find it really interesting too. A lot of, the more commonly known names are for people who maybe have never even been to this place, whereas a lot of the indigenous language names have a lot more context and stories behind them. So I encourage you to kind of think about that as well when you're recreating and dive into those stories in your region too. So I'm going to be chatting about mountains and mentorship and building confidence in the backcountry. I'll go over a bit about what Mountain Mentors is and how we approach mentorship. From what we've seen as a program, what makes a good mentor and what makes a good mentor experience, and chat about the impact of mentorship. And throughout, I'll weave in some mentor stories and quotes from our program. And so if you've been through the Mountain Mentors program, or you're interested in it, or you're just looking to be a better mentor, we're hoping that there'll be some takeaways from everyone from this presentation and about how we approach mentorship. So Mountain Mentors' vision is backcountry spaces where everyone belongs and feels safe. And to us, the backcountry is not a space to be dominated or conquered or disrespected. It's really a destination, an aspiration, and an individual's experience. So Mountain Mentors Backcountry Mentorship Program, our mission is to create safer, more inclusive backcountry spaces by fostering one-on-one mentorship and a community that builds skills, confidence, and leadership for marginalized genders in the outdoors. We serve women, non-binary, gender non-conforming, transmasculine, and transfeminine folks in the Greater Vancouver and Sea to Sky area. Each year, we facilitate 2 cohorts. One's a summer cohort focused on hiking and climbing, which I'm more involved in, and then the winter cohort is backcountry skiing and splitboarding. We're a nonprofit organization supported through program fees, grants, donations, and community partnerships, and really volunteer driven. We have one part-time paid contractor, the mentorship program manager, who I think might be watching this call right now, which is awesome. And then we're supported by our board of directors and volunteer mentors who are really the lifeblood of this organization and really help run our programs. Since 2016, we've had over 1,000 participants across 17 different cohorts, and our cohort sizes range from 10 to 41 pairs per discipline. So, we've seen a lot of mentorship over the years, and I'm really excited to share more about how we approach that and what we've seen. So our core behaviors and how we value and put into our program is equity. We fill representation gaps by promoting equal opportunity and equal voice in our programming. Development, we elevate confidence, encourage learning, enhance backcountry skills, and grow leadership capabilities. Community, we are united by our love of being in the outdoors. We create and nurture uplifting, empowering, and local relationships to generate a network of support and strength. Accountability, we see ourselves as our own agents of change and pursue our goals with integrity. Safety, we recognize the inherent risk of outdoor pursuits and have a steadfast commitment to returning safely. And we think about safety as more than just physical safety, but psychological safety as well. So hiking mentee Maisha really sums up the program really well in this quote. Mountain Mentors is more than just an outdoor program. It's a community where people from diverse backgrounds come together to support one another, share experiences, and grow, both on the trails and in life. So why mentorship? There's lots of different ways we could reach those goals and embody those values, but what impact and what's the importance of mentorship? So I'm sure lots of people on this call have taken a course or maybe went to a meetup and had a really great experience, but felt stuck in their learning and weren't really sure what that next step was. Maybe you knew enough to know that you didn't know everything, or maybe you realized that you've been in previous experiences that were maybe not the safest, and now you had that awareness, but you weren't sure what that next step was. So mentorship creates an alternative path forward for supporting learning for the recreational community to improve safety outcomes, strengthen leadership skills, and build community within equity deserving groups. So it really helps chart that path forward of, what could that look like? And mentorship has been used for a really long time in different professional spaces, and we can really see the value of it in the recreational community as well. So Hiking Mentor Flow from this summer shares that stepping away from the screen and the news cycle, focusing on helping local people, building community, spending time together in the outdoors, this feels essential. It's uplifting to be surrounded by other people's enthusiasm for something I love. So what is our model of mentorship? We see mentorship as a holistic, intimate, multi-directional, and trusting partnership founded on mutual respect between mentor and mentee. You'll note that friendship isn't always in that, but as you can see from this photo, that's often a component of it as well. Mentorship is a structured relationship in which 2 people intentionally come together to achieve a co-created vision. It is a consensual and shared learning experience where both mentors and mentees practice learning, listening, and skill development. So as a mentee, having a mentor is really like having a blueprint for where you want to end up and a support system to direct you there. It's an opportunity to be empowered in your growth and self-development in the backcountry. And our program specifically focuses on marginalized genders, and we see that representation as really being so important to be able to see someone who maybe has experienced similar barriers to you, be in that place that you want to be in to be able to learn from them. And then as a mentor, you have an opportunity to share your backcountry experience. So I'm just trying to move my photos. Okay. Oops. Just trying to move. There we go. Sorry. Mentors have an opportunity to share their backcountry experience and support someone in advancing their skills in the backcountry. So often when we talk with mentors, there's a lot of imposter syndrome and people feel like they don't have enough experience. And a lot of what we do and work through in the program is making sure people feel comfortable and know what their strengths are in order to share that experience with someone. Recognizing that a mentor doesn't have to know it all. You don't have to know every single thing, but having that confidence and safety to be able to share your strengths and be that kind of blueprint for a mentee. So what is our process? Those are all of our values and how we approach mentorship, and we really embed that throughout the program. So we have a very long application process, and part of that is because none of this happens by accident. We put in all that attention and care into that pairing process to find a one-to-one match of mentors and mentees, looking at, experience, logistics, availability, but then also, what do they bring to the program? What are they looking to get out of it? We've thought about, automating with AI and trying to kind of skip through that, but really what the special part of our program is that human element and looking at the holistic person in order to have the best chances of success for our pairing program. So we have a whole pairing committee that comes together and volunteers their time to read through all these applications. So a lot of time goes into that. And then at the end of the process, we have a cohort that is together for either the summer season or the winter, and we have a cohort kickoff event. So that's really the one time in the season that everyone gets together and we try and set up these mentorship pairs for success. So this year we had Adventure Smart come in and do some safety training, and we also do some other facilitated activities and community agreements, and then set some goals for the season too. And then from that space of the cohort kickoff, then it really goes into that one-to-one mentorship pairing, which is the core of the program. So there's monthly outings and planning around that and getting to know each other. And that's kind of the core piece of the program, but there's also the wider community. So we have skill shares where it's an opportunity for anyone in the program to step forward and share their knowledge and experience. So sometimes that's leading a crevasse rescue practice session or having, a webinar on how to pack food for a backpacking trip. We also have subsidized training opportunities with guides because we recognize that some mentors might be guides, but most mentors are not. And so there's still definitely that role of that technical training in order to support reaching their goals. But when you're able to do it with a community that's been kind of pre-selected and has been through this pairing process and you know that there's already that familiarity, it just allows you to get even more out of those training opportunities. We also have some mentor-specific supports like a mentor kickoff, specific events and training in order to help with that leadership development and have that network of support. So it's not one mentor having to know everything, but they can lean on each other if there are questions that come up and wanting to support their mentee. So what are some of the keys to a successful mentorship experience? Really, the foundation of this is building that trusting relationship. So while we do all this work to kind of match people and try and find people with similar goals and experiences, it's really up to that pair to build that trusting relationship. So if you are looking to be a mentor, or you're looking for a mentor and you found somebody who might be in that relationship, setting the time to build that communication and trust from the get-go is so foundational. And then building on that, really having a clear communication of expectations, whether that's expectations around safety and communication or time, that kind of thing. Setting SMART goals, it's a bit of a cheesy one, but it's one that really works. And it's, everyone who comes to the program always has the goal of, I want to be more confident in the backcountry, which is great. We all want to feel more confident in the backcountry, but really, what does that mean to you? What are you looking to get out of the season? And what are you looking from your mentorship experience? Are you looking to be a better downhill skier so that way you can feel more comfortable navigating more technical terrain? Or do you have another specific goal that would allow you to feel more confident that you'd actually be able to tell if you've reached that goal? Connecting with the broader community, while mentorship is one-to-one, having that support and other resources is such a benefit and helps you to build your skills. And then planning ahead, it's a lot easier to reschedule something when it's in the calendar and to stay accountable to those goals when you have something set up. And then from our program, 17 cohort seasons, what makes a strong mentor? Building off of that previous slide, really having a community-driven mindset and looking to get more out of that experience. an understanding of reciprocity. A lot of mentees come into the program with a lot of their own experience and their own strengths, and being able to meet your mentee where they're at really helps with that relationship building, and also, helps with your own leadership development. Having a desire to build meaningful and trusting relationships is so core to being a strong mentor, as well as it's not just about the technical side of things. And a willingness and a competency to share your experience. Often we're in a place where we're looking for more mentors, but every once in a while we will get someone who applies. We're like, oh, actually, we think you still have a little bit more growth to do, and to be really aware of what your strengths are and what you feel comfortable with mentoring, as opposed to, getting into a situation where you're maybe also, like Sandra was saying earlier, maybe a bit outside of your comfort zone. So being really aware of what that is. And then reliability and communication. Within our program, we really put it on the mentees to be that person who's reaching out and kind of initiating the relationship, but to validate that, and to, say when you show up, you're going to show up, and keeping that relationship going. So Kate Inch, who's been a returning winter mentor since the very beginning of Mountain Mentors, shares that mentorship to me is about learning together, asking questions, and cheering each other on, often from the bottom of a skin track or the top of a steep line. I continue to be a mentor because I want to give back to a community that has given me so much and helps others feel empowered, safe, and welcomed in these spaces. So some of the impacts of mentorship are improved safety, both the psychological safety of having that relationship, as well as physical safety, increased sense of belonging, and diversified representation. And then specifically looking at our program, there's been a lot of different trickle down and ripple effects through outdoor spaces. Since we started in 2016, there's been many additional mentorship programs inspired from our model, and we've also done some consulting and advising on the development of these models. Since we've been founded in 2016, we've had the increasing diversity of cohorts, both racial diversity as well as gender diversity. And then we've had 66 mentees return as mentors, and 96 mentors that have returned for multiple seasons. And to us, that's a really great marker of, people coming back and building on their skills and wanting to give back to the community. So this quote from Kathy, who is a climbing and skiing mentor: having a mentor back when I started would have been a game changer. So I thought, why not try to be that person for someone else? It's wild and rewarding to watch someone tie in, drop in, or just try something new for the first time. It reminds you why you fell in love with outdoors in the first place. I also just wanted to take a moment to highlight some other mentorship programs. I know folks are calling in from all over the province, as well as further away. And so really encouraging you, if you are interested in mentorship, either finding a program in your area or thinking about how you can embed that within your existing outdoor relationships. And the organizations on the screen, the ones that have stars next to it, have people who have either been involved in Mountain Mentors or somehow have been related to us. So there's so many more too, and we're so excited to see this growth in mentorship. When we started in 2016, there weren't as many programs out there, and now it's really this movement that's growing, and we're so excited to be a part of that and to support with this knowledge transfer. And then finally, if you are in the Sea to Sky region and Greater Vancouver area, and you're women, non-binary, gender non-conforming, or trans, just a couple ways that you can get involved with Mountain Mentors. Our summer climbing and hiking applications will open in April, and we're currently recruiting more volunteers for our board of directors. And then we're also always looking for different partners and folks to support our program. So please reach out if anything that I shared here has resonated with you. Yeah, always looking for more people to support and to get involved. And
Thanks,
now I
Maren.
will pass it back to Sandra.
Thanks, Maren. That was really insightful. I appreciate it. Quick question that was just kind of rumbling around in my brain. Do people come more to be exposed to and learn hard skills or soft skills? So they want to learn how to move through terrain and put skins on and pack your pack?
Yeah.
Or is it more decision-making, group dynamics, the psychological side? Just thoughts on that?
I would say it's both. We definitely have folks who come with different goals. And so sometimes it is, wanting to get better at decision making and navigating group dynamics. A lot of folks have maybe come from spaces where they haven't been a trip leader, they haven't felt comfortable speaking up, and so they want to build that kind of internal confidence so they can take on more of that role. And then other folks also will apply, looking to have more of those technical skills, whether it's, skiing steeper lines and being more comfortable in that kind of terrain. And I think that's the beauty of the program, is that it is that one-to-one. So we really try and tailor it to what each person wants, and then it's up to them to kind of go after those goals, and we support them in that way.
That's great. Thank you. That answered my question. I appreciate it. Before I move on to our next guest, Sarah, hang on 2 seconds if you don't mind. I just wanted to enlighten everyone again, because I see that we do have a few search and rescue volunteers here, but also for all of those who are not search and rescue, just a few numbers for you. In British Columbia, we have 78 search and rescue groups. Scott's part of Coquitlam. As I mentioned, Chosen's sitting here at a big group training session tonight. I saw a few others here tonight from your group. Thank you for joining us. So 78 groups in the whole province. And there's 3,200 unpaid members, unpaid professionals, search and rescue volunteers that are a part of that provincial contingency. And every year they dedicate, give wholeheartedly their time and energy to training, education, and response, more than 500,000 hours a year. Over 500,000 hours a year to help others, no matter what that looks like. So just wanted to share a few numbers with you, because it's nice to wrap your head around it versus just seeing it quickly on the news or quickly in print or on social. I always like to set a stage of who we're trying to help and who we're trying to lessen the impacts on. And that's all of those volunteers. Sarah is a woman of Indian heritage who immigrated from India to New Zealand at the age of 5 and later settled in Canada. She learned to ski at 28 and quickly fell in love with the freedom, challenges, and the depth of the backcountry. Based in BC's Sea to Sky region, Sarah is a passionate community builder and mentor. She serves as a board director and vice chair of the Sea to Sky Community Services Society, co-leads BIPOC Rocks, provides winter mentorship with Mountain Mentors, and co-facilitates avalanche safety courses with Inclusivity. Okay, you have a very full plate, Sarah. Let's just say that. Professionally, Sarah also works as a healthcare manager and has a self-described obsession with safety science. That's good to hear. It's probably one of the reasons you're here. She's also a wife, an auntie, a sister, a daughter, and a proud fur mom to her special needs cat, Puma. Sarah, the stage is yours, and I look forward to hearing what you've got to say tonight. Thanks for joining us.
No problem at all. Thank you so much there. So I will just be talking to y'all. I won't be sharing any slides. And what I'm going to be covering is 3 topics related to mentorship. So the first one is we're just going to jump into talking about imposter syndrome. I'm really glad Maren brought that up. I'm then going to talk about some of the traits that I think are really important to have as a mentor. And then I'm going to then move into where I see mentorship, where it just really steps in to support long-term growth of the people that we get to recreate with outside. So I think it's just really good to address right off the bat that feeling that most of us have when someone comes to us and says, hey, I think you'd be a really great mentor. Imposter syndrome, it does not discriminate. It's that internal monologue, it's that nagging voice inside of you, and it asks things such as, but are you good enough? You haven't skied technical lines or a lot of them. Do you think you have enough experience? What if my mentee is a better skier than me? What if they're faster than me and I slow them down? What if they ask me questions and I don't know the answers? Or what if I make a mistake? And what if that mistake that I make actually harms them as well? So those are thoughts that you've probably had run through your minds. I definitely have had those thoughts run through my mind, and they definitely come and go still to this day. I think for some of us, imposter syndrome shows up in many different ways. So for some people, and I know for me, it's about not being fit enough or strong enough, or even not having that cool outdoor resume. And for others, it is those things, but it's also just not feeling like you are part of the community. You don't fit that niche or that look to be part of the backcountry community, or despite your successes, you don't deserve to be called a mentor. Some of us on the call have probably been moving in the backcountry for a really long time. For me, I was a scout from the age of 5 until my mid-teens. I had really no concept about backcountry skiing until my late 20s. But I was proficient with orienteering, wilderness first aid, and basic survival skills in the New Zealand backcountry. Others I know have learnt to move and navigate in the backcountry as adults. Not one life experience is superior. We know that from safety science that mistakes can be made from anyone, from novice to experts. In fact, one of my most favorite people, Will Gadd, he famously documents his own near fatal mistakes, and he does that to educate others on risk management, and he is still an excellent mentor. So my point here is that when it comes to considering being a mentor, I always recommend that the first step people take is to look within themselves before then reaching out. Doing that is actually just a really great way of just addressing imposter syndrome right there and then. And you then start to approach your mentorship path with a lot of humility and grace for yourself, but then also for other people, and especially your mentees. So I'm going to go through now just some of the traits that I think are important to have as a mentor. Feel free to grab a pen and paper or just use your phone to kind of write down some of these things. So the first thing, as I said, is to look within before looking out. And that can start off firstly with just asking yourself some really crunchy questions. Things such as, what am I worried about? So for me, I'm always worried about being slow, being the last of the pack. I'm 4'11", so I don't have a huge stride, but I know I can move on my skis for hours, and I actually really enjoy long days. Then the next thing to talk about or think about for yourself is, what is your communication style, or even the different styles you might have depending on the different types of groups you might be interacting with. And you can even think of examples of, how do I communicate with my spouse versus that family member who I really don't like versus my coworkers. And then think about, how do you communicate when you're under stress? So for me, when I'm under stress, I become very process oriented. I am very direct with my communication. I will clearly state what I'm noticing, the feelings that I am getting from it, and then ask if we can decide what to do next. As you're now building your list, the next thing you're going to think about, and actually what you're going to write about, is write down the awesome stuff that you've done in the backcountry, and then make a note of the range of the different types of terrain, weather, maybe even group dynamics that you've been in. How did you handle all those situations, and what learnings did you take from them as well? The next thing you're going to do is, it's actually great to make a list of the technical skills that you feel are standard practice to share. I think this is where things get a little bit iffy and gray, because I have come across incredibly seasoned mentors with frankly really unsafe decision-making and critical thinking skills. And they were taught by these seasoned mentors as well. And you are taught these things just really just trusting the fact that the information that's been shared with you is the standard practice. And so it's really cool just to every now and then just check your skills out. Go and look at some really great literature, or even just connect with a guide, just to kind of just see, are these things that I'm aware of, is it up to date, or do I need to adapt my practice? That in itself is a really great way of demonstrating humility. So then once you've kind of like worked on these lists, the final one that you're going to work on is a list that I actually think is frankly probably one of the most important type of skills to have as a mentor, which is those non-technical skills, which is really the emotional skills of being a human and being in human connection with people. And so I'm going to now spend some time unpacking these. The first one is around emotional regulation. So it's really normal to have heightened experiences and feelings to be scared or frightened in certain situations, and especially if something catches you off guard. But when you are in that situation, how do you manage fear, frustration, and uncertainty? Do you yell? Do you go into a shell? Do you back off and avoid conflict? Or do you get passive aggressive? And it's really great for you to note these things. And it's not to note anything good or bad. It's just, it is what it is. It just gives yourself more insight into who you are and how you respond to things. And then maybe some ideas of, well, if I'm in that situation again, how do I think maybe is a way to adapt? The goal here is about not letting your emotions escalate the group's stress and just finding a way to model calm when conditions are chaotic. It's easy for me to say that. I feel it's an art and it takes a lot of practice to be able to do it. And so when I am in that situation where I am feeling it is quite stressful and I am struggling to critically think, I live by the 3 W's because this brings me back to the situation and it grounds me. So the 3 W's are, what am I noticing? What am I worried about? And what do I want from this situation? The second thing is knowing about your own self-awareness and practicing humility. Really, this is about knowing your own limits. What are your biases? What are your triggers as well? And it really comes down to just admitting when you don't know something. And that is absolutely fine. It's perfectly okay to respond with, I don't know, when somebody asks a question, because then you can follow it up with, but then how about the two of us figure out where we can get that information together? Being able to do that also just recognizes that if there is an ego in the room, you're putting it aside and it's not going to influence decisions, where we know from heuristics and human factors, egos can really contribute to some catastrophic events happening. The other thing that you can do around practicing self-awareness and humility is being willing to learn alongside your mentees. The amount of times where I've been shared something from my mentee and I've been able to respond with, I actually never thought about it that way. Thank you for sharing that with me. You notice, like, you actually significantly notice a change in the power dynamic, because that power dynamic inherently comes with the mentor-mentee relationship, but just being able to show that you're learning alongside them and you're also learning from them really just breaks that down. One of the other traits that I feel is maybe not fully understood, or it's misinterpreted in different ways, is empathy. So for me, empathy is about understanding what others are experiencing. It's not about me needing to feel what they are going through. It's just me getting an appreciation of what they are experiencing physically and emotionally. And one way of demonstrating empathy is reading subtle signs of fear, fatigue, or overwhelm. A way that you can learn about that information is when you first meet your mentee, we always suggest that it's great to go and meet up in a library or a coffee place, get together, and it's essentially like a blind date. You don't really know much about each other apart from maybe an application. And so you're getting to know each other. And that's a really good opportunity to start, talking about each other's experiences, but also asking things about, hey, if you and I are in the backcountry moving together and you're starting to get tired or you're nervous about something, is there things within yourself or within your demeanor that you do that can maybe give me a bit of a clue that you're starting to feel just a little bit nervous in the situation or you're tired? And I share back with people that my example is, if I'm starting to get tired, I'm just going to be really, really quiet. You're not going to, if you ask me a question, you're not going to get really long, lengthy responses from me. You're probably just going to get a nod. You're going to get a yep. You're probably not going to get much eye contact from me as well. And so that's just a cue for somebody to be like, okay, you know what? This is time to have a pause. Let's have a snack. Let's have a drink. Let's just do a check-in around like how we're finding the day so far. And do we want to continue with what we'd set out to do as well? The other way of showing empathy is taking concerns seriously, even if they are small. It's really demoralizing when you've been told by somebody that you have nothing to worry about, it'll be fine. The slope is fine. We're gonna slide down on it. How many times have we heard that? How many times have we heard this sentence happen and it's led to something bad happening as well? And then one of the last ways that you can show empathy, and Marion kind of touched on this as well, is meeting people where they are, not where you think they should be. So with one of my last mentees that I was partnered with, when I was reading their application form, on paper, they seemed incredibly fit and very active. In fact, it started to kind of ignite my own imposter syndrome and thinking, oh gosh, I think I'm going to be really slow and probably slowing them down as well. We then met together, and after deciding where we wanted to go, we started up on the skin track. And within about 5 minutes, the person who I saw in front of me was a completely different person of who I'd read in the application. I put that application behind me because I have no idea what's been going on in their lives from writing that to now, or what's even been going on in their life from last night. All I know is that right now we're in a really beautiful situation together, and it looks like they're moving at a slower pace than I anticipated. And I'm just going to actually take that as a sign of, you know what, we're going to slow down, and maybe we're just going to have a little bit more of a gentle conversation as we move up the hill. And we put a little bit of fact into the conversation in terms of, it looks like we're moving at this time, and it's probably going to take us a little longer to get that ridge. Does that still seem doable for you? And then based on that and based on how we were moving, we slightly adjusted our plan. We still ended up just having a really beautiful day together. That then leads into the next trait, which is patience. Learning and growth takes a lot of time, and especially in the harsh environments that we get to recreate in. I really like to build in, and especially the first few times as I'm going out with my mentee, as we're getting to know each other, I like to build in space for slower decision making, for our ability to critically think, but really just talk it out in a not a rushed way, and in just a very, very gentle conversation as well. And so I talk about that when we're trip planning, because we take that into account in terms of then how long we anticipate maybe our day is, and maybe just adjust it a little bit. So putting in that little buffer. And you know what? If you are ahead of your time when you start moving, that's no problem at all. In fact, you know what? That's a sweet bonus. But doing that, it's not about setting a tone that they are slow or due to experience. You're just setting a tone that you support and you welcome having that space for being able to learn and not rush with learning as well throughout the day. One of the traits that I don't know about y'all, but I think one of the things that I've struggled the most, and it's because I didn't really learn how to do this until probably my early 30s, was how to manage conflict. I was taught really, for most of my life to avoid conflict, and so I'm really, really good at doing that. But handling those interpersonal tensions before it becomes dangerous is so key. And so it's always just addressing those issues early and directly. And I find again, using those 3 W's, it's a really great way of just blending facts, but also honoring your feelings that are coming with that, within an invitation of coming together, with shared accountability to figure out what we're going to do next. Again, if you're able to meet with your mentee beforehand, it's actually a great conversation to have with them. And you just can start off the question with, How are we going to deal with conflict? Because conflict will come up. It's just a natural thing that happens between humans. Now, if you're in the situation where you're a mentor and it's a meetup group, you've never met these people before, that one's a little bit of a trickier situation. But this is where I just really throw out the invitation to just ask that. It's going to feel awkward, but just ask that question right at the start of the trailhead. Before everybody hits their buttons and starts their Strava, just have that conversation about, hey, how are we going to communicate with one another and deal with conflict if this comes up? How do we communicate if we're in disagreement of decision making, if we're in a tricky situation? Ask that conversation at the trailhead, because it's an easy bail if it's obvious that it's just not going to work out with the group. I've done that before. It was many years ago. It was probably one of the most scariest things that I've done, but it was really obvious in that moment that based on how they responded to that question, I actually started to lose trust with that group. An erosion of trust or an erosion of focus is not what you want to have happen. And so it was a really easy bail for me to be like, you know what, I think I won't join today. My car's right there. I could leave and I was okay as well. And then the last kind of, one of the last couple of things I want to talk about is just having that being adaptable, which is really about just letting go of plans without resentment. It's just accepting the fact that conditions, people, and emotions can change. They can change in the moment, they can change throughout the day as well. And so when those things do happen, our job, or our job as mentors, we respond to that rather than reacting. And what I mean by that is just, we're not reacting in terms of, but this was our goal that we'd set out to do. We respond with kindness and gracious and just ask how we can support them and what needs to happen next. And if it means turning around, that is absolutely fine. My goal whenever I start any type of adventure that I do is to get back to my car with 4 limbs intact and Stoke still intact. And if that means that we only went 1 kilometer up the road, but this person is just absolutely not feeling it today because they had a terrible sleep and they had a really bad argument with their partner, we turn around, we go back to the car, maybe we go out for brunch. And so modeling that flexibility is actually a really great strength to have as a mentor. The final trait that I want to talk about, and is actually something that I just really hold so close and dear to my heart, and I think it's just because of my upbringing in New Zealand, is around just not only just genuine concern for the people that we get to be outside with and mentor, but it's care and stewardship for the land that we are on as well. It is truly living by leaving no trace. And so when I talk about genuine concern about people, we go into mentorship because we actually just, we truly believe in sharing our wisdom and our knowledge for the greater good of this information being not only passed on to this person who's going to, continue their long-term goals of whatever they want and outcomes, what they want to achieve, but it's also part of the greater good for the community as well. Because you're now sharing your information with other folks, and it's just creating a more just interesting and diverse community for everybody. And so having that genuine concern for people, though, has to go hand in hand for having a genuine concern for the land that we're recreating on, for the waters that we are passing through as well, for the snow and for the mountains that we are moving on. And so I always just really try to, continue teaching what respect looks like for the land, not only for each other, and as we're moving through the land, but how do we respect this land, and how do we acknowledge, the land keepers and the indigenous stories of these places as well. And I also then hope that myself and the mentee, we hold that responsibility with a lot of seriousness and warmth as well. So when all these traits, they come together, by proxy, what they contribute to is just this really lovely psychologically safe relationship between the two of you. It's human, it's raw, and it's genuine. And then you get to go and do some really rad stuff with them. So we've talked a lot about, we've talked about mentorship and these traits, and in a second, I'm going to just talk about where I see mentorship having an impact on the long-term goals of folks. But I want to just make a clear distinction between mentorship, guiding, and coaching, because I do see some confusion sometimes here. So for me, guiding is follow me, I'm responsible. Coaching is try this, I'll help you improve. Mentorship is walk with me, let's grow together. There is definitely some overlap there, but each of their intentions, there's different power dynamics and their timelines are quite different as well. And so for me, mentorship is about supporting long-term growth of the whole person. So it's not just the skills there. We might just be that little blip in that person's life, but it sure can make a huge impact towards that overall long-term growth of that whole person. So where mentorship can help that growth of the person, I see it in these things. The first one is around judgment. And what I mean by that is that it's the ability to make good decisions when rules run out. So what I see mentorship do, and where I see it kind of help develop, is I start to notice that the person is developing pattern recognition over time. They start to get really comfortable, or they get a little bit more comfortable with ambiguity and dealing with incomplete information. And they start to have a little bit of an appreciation, and you also sometimes see these aha moments of them knowing when to act and when to wait as well. For us as mentors, it's not about us always giving the right answers. It's about us finding a way to find that answer with them. And we do this because what matters is how someone thinks when the situation doesn't match the textbook, which that does happen actually. So the ways a mentor can help somebody is by asking really good questions and not necessarily giving answers. How I've seen that happen is an example with one mentee was we were about to move from simple terrain into complex. And prior to us changing into the conditions, I could see this happening and anticipated it. My mentee hadn't, and that's absolutely fine. But I took that opportunity to stop and ask her, so I'm noticing that there's a change in how things look around me. Can you let me know what you're seeing as well? And that was great because then we were able to stop, have a snack and a drink break. And she was able to start talking about, how the contours of the mountains were looking different. She also then started to talk about, I kind of noticed that the snow started changing a little bit as we were moving. And I was like, yeah, I noticed you kind of flicking up the snow every now and then and stopping and pausing. And I was like, I also noticed you doing that as well. And so being able to kind of do that, right, was that we started just sharing some reasoning, about what we're noticing and maybe what we want to do. My goal wasn't to conclude something, but instead it was for us to come to a conclusion of, okay, we're now moving into avalanche terrain now. What do you think we should do next as well? And it's quite very, very open questions, but that's kind of like what I'm doing is these little bit of prompts because you've done some pre-work with them. You've read their forecasts together. You've sat down and you've written in your yellow book, all the some of the information, but now you're kind of like, is the things that we've written, is it translating into what we're seeing right now as well? And so the cool thing also about doing that, though, is that when you ask questions such as, okay, we're moving into this different terrain. What do you think we should do? It's letting the mentee sit with a little bit of uncertainty. And that's actually a really cool thing, because that's suddenly where you start to kind of see they're putting together the facts and the information they're coming up with, here's some thoughts that I have as well. Sometimes it's really, really easy to fall into a place of, quietly controlling, maybe being a shadow guide. If you notice that happening, just speak up and just state that you might be feeling that situation. But again, allow them to have just a little bit of uncomfortableness of sitting in that uncertainty, so then you can critically think together and then come up with what your next plan is going to be. The other thing where I see mentorship just really helping with people is around their identity. So really helping shape their identity. There's something really special when somebody understands who they are, or when they start to kind of discover who, or reclaim who they are in these beautiful spaces in the mountains. And so I've seen mentors, shift their thinking from things from I follow instructions to I own my own decisions, from I want approval to I trust my judgment, and then even things from I need certainty to I can hold uncertainty. All those things develops their own personal leadership style. And then on top of that, they start to just integrate fear without being ruled by it. And they start to figure out ways how to work and manage and mitigate risk as well. And it's quite phenomenal as you're going through this mentorship process, as you kind of slowly start stepping back a little bit, seeing like this amazing personal leadership style start to come through that was probably always there anyway. The cool thing that also then happens is that they start letting go of just a comparison and this performance identity as well, because they're genuinely being themselves in a really complicated, harsh environment, figuring out how to, adapt these new skills, and also just totally owning it and just holding themselves accountable to it as well. One of the things, though, I also kind of want to share, and one of the last things I want to share is related to that decision making under uncertainty. So it's just about acting without full clarity and owning the outcome. So what I mean by that is like, unlike coaching or guiding, mentorship, it allows for that imperfect choices, hopefully done within a safe environment, to be done. So an example is a number of years ago, myself and a mentee, we headed into Obo, in the musical bumps, just on the backcountry of Whistler. And our goal was to just ski some slopes, potentially heading over to Cowboy Ridge, depending on how things were going. We had, though, our exit strategy planned just in case. The day was actually absolutely wonderful and the conditions were perfect. And we decided, yes, we're going to go to Cowboy Ridge. That means, though, our destination is probably coming down Singing Pass. We had read information that Singing Pass was not looking in the greatest shape whatsoever. We also knew that making that decision, choosing to do that, it's probably going to make our day a little bit longer, which means we'll have to inform our emergency folks of a change in an ETA as well. But we're like, you know what, we're going to make the choice and we're going to go head over and do some laps in Cowboy Ridge, and we're going to head down Singing Pass. Was that a great decision? Skiing Cowboy Ridge? Yeah, that was a really, really great decision. Coming down Singing Pass, which I now call Crying Pass, was a terrible decision. Both of us don't have much meniscus in our knees. The run was lugy, it was icy. I think we pizzaed most of the way, and it was just brutal on our knees. And I think we were crying, laughing by the time we got down at the bottom. Was it, in terms of our decision making of the day, was it really high quality decision making? Absolutely. Was it a choice that we'd probably do again? I don't think so. I think we'd probably suck it up and go straight back into the resort and ski out that way, because that ending was terrible. But when we had our debrief at the end, you know what? We were still really proud of how we evaluated our decisions and came up with our choices as well. Our little lessons that we learned, yeah, we integrate those into just other future action planning as well. And so that beauty about, taking that experience and now turning it into wisdom, what then happens is this reflection loop that you have, that's where the growth and that's where the magic happens for the both of you. And it's just a really, really cool feeling. So I've shared a lot of information, and my hope is that you are able to reflect on who you are as a mentor, not just what you know. What you know is exceptional, and you know that, but really it's what really matters in mentorship, I feel, is just this invisible thing. It's not really about the beta or the skills that we demonstrate. Those things are awesome, but what it's about is really, it's about that tone that you set when things get really quiet or they get really scary. It's about how people feel safe when they want to ask a question or multiple questions. And it's about how we respond with fear, uncertainty, or even mistakes as well. Because honestly, long after the trip details have faded, people are going to remember how we made them feel and who they were able to become around us as well. And that, I think, is the beauty of mentorship. Over to you, Sandra.
Sarah, thank you. Oh my goodness. Wow. Can we all go to the emotions and clap our hands, please? Because that was so easy to listen to, so informative, so helpful. I saw some comments in the chat from Search and Rescue, from other members, and really, really captivating. If I could just carbon copy you and Maren, plunk you at the head of every trailhead I can think of in the province where we have a lot of search and rescue tasks. Can you just have like a 2-minute conversation with everybody that decides to go somewhere? It doesn't have to be long. Summarize that, give them Cole's notes. We'll give you an Adventure Smart shirt to do it. Because you hit a lot of nails on the head in the topics that we share with our programming, with our curriculum, with our consistent messaging, with our repetitive messaging, in our social, and just so much that's ingrained. And you know what? It just really, it's quite comforting because it's doing what we're trying to do, and we're all doing it together, some of us, and that's adding to that safety culture in the province of British Columbia. And there's so much involved in that. That's a huge package, isn't it? But tonight was a lot of that. You really, really shared a lot of that. So from someone who does this and eats, breathes, and sleeps it 24/7 for her job, thank you for really polishing a lot of the topics that are there. And I think a lot of us are aware of them, but to bring them to the surface again in a little bit more definition is really appreciated. Scott, I'll let you jump in if there's any questions before I wrap the evening.
Yeah, there's a few questions. So we'll start off with a question for you, Maren. What are the minimum requirements for joining the mentorship program?
Yeah, so in the winter, we do require that all mentees and mentors have their AST1 at a minimum. And then in the summer, we don't have any minimum requirements. And that's mostly because our application process is so in depth. So you have lots of space to say, as a mentee, what is your experience? What are you looking for? And as a mentor, what is your experience and what would you be comfortable mentoring? So, we might have mentors who apply and are super experienced, but they don't want to work with someone who's brand new to the sport. They want somebody who has a couple seasons. So that's where our minimum requirements are quite flexible, because we look at those specifics of what each person is looking for.
I'll ask another possibly quick question from Sarah. I don't know. Sarah, how do you dance the fine line between encouraging someone like that? I'm so tired, and you know that they haven't hit their second wind yet, and you want to encourage them to keep going, versus, oh, you know what? This may be a sign that we have to turn around. How do you dance that dance?
Oh, that is a complicated dance, because I feel like I've been that person so many times, and I think I was even last week. I take that moment for, you probably heard me say a lot of times, pause, snack, nutrition. I take that time for, firstly, I think stopping, getting some really good nutrition, getting some salt, getting some fat into the person, and just saying, you know what, how about we take let's give ourselves about 20 minutes or so, kind of to like get that in. And that is quite a bit of time, but sometimes I find it actually gets a little bit quicker. I just give them that little bit of a buffer, really. So that they've got some sugar in them. They're able to just self-regulate themselves as well, bring their heart rate down. And then I start to ask them, do you feel like this is the type of thing that maybe we want to just walk another 100 meters and see how we go and see how that feels? And it is a little bit I think some people might think it sounds like a little bit hand holding. I think that's absolutely okay to do. Because as we start, walking, I also then ask them, like, do you want me to talk or you just want to walk in silence as well? And we keep going. And then we just keep moving. And I just say, you just let me know if like you're okay if we just keep moving, or if you want to just turn around and go, no, I'm done. That is also okay. If we then get back, if it's a no, we're done, that's sweet. We pack up, we turn around, we get back to the car. I've had a couple of people, we get back to the car and they're like, you know what, maybe I could have gone a little bit longer. And I'm like, maybe we could have, but it's so really easy to say that in hindsight, but in that moment you felt really crappy and we don't know what could have happened. So you really did the best thing by turning around, because you've now got energy to drive back home. What if we got a little bit further and it pushed yourself, and yeah, you push yourself, but then now you're so tired skiing back down to the car where you're more likely to maybe get injured. That's another thing. So we kind of just talk these things out, and I just tell them in the end, it was the right decision for the information that was in front of us. And that's it.
And I imagine over time, both of you learn sort of the extents at which each other can operate, right? So you can say, "Oh, you're sure? Like maybe we should go another 10 minutes because remember last time you regretted not having that second wind yet? Maybe we can go another 10 minutes and then we'll break for the thing, and then that might just be what's needed." So it's just one of those things where you learn over time. I know with my wife and myself, we both know exactly the cues now. We've been at it for 20 years. We should, but I imagine you can get that level of relationship as well.
You do, yeah.
One other question from the audience, and I think we're going to have to call it a day. Talia asks, and Maren, how do you support new mentors within the Mountain Membership Program? So I was thinking about that too. Uh, is there advanced training they can get? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, I'll say from my end, and then Sarah, if you have anything to add from your side in the program. But yeah, we have over the years we've developed more supports. I can only speak to the years I've been involved. I don't know what it looked like back right at the beginning, but we do have a mentor kickoff where especially new mentors who haven't been through the program before can come together, and we do a bit of facilitation on like what have we seen that works really well, what are maybe potential challenges, and also have a space for them to say what they see being a challenge and what are their biggest fears. So kind of like what Sarah was talking about is taking stock of, how they're feeling and making sure that they've thought about those things before they've met with their mentee. So we have that support right at the beginning of the season. And then our program manager will also do check-ins. Like tonight, actually at 7, they had a Zoom call where it was a space for mentors to come together. And if they were having any challenges in their pairing, they can lean on the strength of the other mentors who've maybe been through the program before or have, different experiences to bring. And then we also, we actually this year, Kate Inch, who's been a mentor for many years, she's not a mentor this year, but she's kind of supporting the mentors with some specific, backcountry events and that. So there's also those things kind of out in the field, if you will, to build on their skills and develop that leadership. I know some of the best experiences I had as a hiking mentor were actually in some of those group trips where I got to connect with other mentors and other pairs and learn from each other. So we have lots of different supports in place that way.
Well, I like the idea that there's group trips where the different mentors and mentees get together. That's pretty cool too. We could go on all evening, but we're not going to. We're going to let you guys get back to your evening as well, so you can log into that phone call if you need to. But Sandra, before we do that, let's do a giveaway.
Let's do a giveaway. And you know what? all of this tonight reminds me of what a lot of us, this is aging some of us, what we used to do years ago and belonged to clubs. We belonged to hiking groups, and we were a part of a cohort. We didn't think about what we were gaining from that. You know what I mean? If it was a hiking club, a backcountry outdoor adventure group, whatever it was. And I in my career, 30 years plus in outdoor rec, I see that's waned. And what I hear tonight, it just feels like a door is open and there's a collective space. And so it's very, again, it's very comforting. It's great. Let's get to that giveaway because you have other things to do this evening aside from this. But again, I could sit here and talk to you guys all night long. This is really quite wonderful. Sarah talked about a lot of things, and one of my favorite parts was all the traits. That was really hitting a lot of the nails on the head for me. Empathy, patience, these things that we tap into, maybe not knowingly or knowingly, the psychology behind that. We had a great webinar. I plumped it in the chat there too. Anyway, my question is for you, and we'd like you to answer in the chat. Include your email, please, in the answer to this question that I'm about to ask you. And Sarah mentioned it. One of the things she talked about was a form. I'm trying to phrase my question. Okay, here's my question. What was a form of management that Sarah talked about in and amongst all the traits that she listed? I was trying to make that question as simple as possible. I don't know if I did. It was interesting for me because I don't think it's a lot of what people think about before they head outdoors, because we always think everything will go well, everyone will get along, everything will run smoothly. So what was that form of management that Sarah did bring up that sometimes needs addressing or handling, I should say? And so again, once again, we need your email, which we can get in touch with you after, and we'll get this book to you, to the first person to answer. And as answers slowly come in, that means my question was very hard to understand. Apologies for that, because usually things are just flying in. So obviously I didn't phrase that very well, but thank you for taking your time to listen. And
Is one of those answers correct?
Let's see. What I'm looking for is conflict management.
Yay! We did get a
Yes.
correct answer. So
We
for the
did.
person who did answer correctly, and thank you for also putting your email on the same thing, we will reach out to you.
Thanks, everyone. I really appreciate it. We had a good group tonight. We have a couple more over the next few weeks. Please join us, come back. And on behalf of the 3,200 search and rescue volunteers, we appreciate your time, efforts in getting prepared, being safe, and knowing what to do in an emergency. And don't forget, if you need help, the number's 911, and there's no charge for rescue. Take care, everyone. We appreciate your support. Good night.
Good night, everyone.
So, you want to be adventure smart.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
But what is being adventure smart?
Being adventure smart is really all about taking responsibility for your own safety and following the 3 T's.
Got it. What are the 3 T's?
What are the 3 T's? The 3 T's are the trifecta of outdoor safety: trip planning, training, and taking the essentials. The 3 T's can vary from person to person, activity to activity, and season to season. But here are some important ways to ensure you are prepared and safe on your next adventure. Trip planning. We could go on forever about this one. Trip planning is an essential step and one of the easiest ways we can stay safe on our adventures. This is something that should be done every time we head into the outdoors, whether for a few hours or multiple days. Trip planning can be broken down into 4 simple steps. Planning your travel route and navigation is about picking a trail or route based on its difficulty that's relative to your experience, ability, and the amount of time you have. Know your limits. Not all trails are created equal, so know the terrain and conditions. A 10-kilometer hike scrambling straight up a steep mountain is a lot different than a 10-kilometer stroll around a lake. Before you go anywhere, check the weather and keep checking it as things can change fast. This includes wind, precipitation, temperature, and sunset times. Finally, make sure you leave a comprehensive trip plan with a trusted contact. Keep in mind, this may not be your mom or dad or best buddy. Choose someone you can count on if you were to get into trouble. A comprehensive trip plan might be as simple as sending your trusted contact a text or email with key information about your activity, or using the Adventure Smart app, which allows you to enter a detailed trip plan. Training doesn't mean being an elite athlete or being queen of the mountain on Strava. Training is a continuous process of outdoor recreation. It's about developing the necessary skills and abilities to be safe. This might include working your way up to that big summit hike, taking a few courses to expand your wilderness and backcountry knowledge, navigation and route finding courses, or even learning more advanced skills like rescue and emergency training. You have planned and trained. Now make sure you take the essentials. Taking the essentials means packing everything you potentially need to stay warm, safe, and dry if an emergency unexpectedly arises. What if you rolled your ankle or got hurt? What if you got lost and had to spend the night outdoors? Take the time and be prepared to look after yourself. So that's it. Those are the 3 T's.
That's it.
But no matter how hard you train, how well you trip plan, and how much essential gear you bring, you may still find yourself in an emergency. And that's okay. The wilderness can be unpredictable. If you find yourself in an emergency, it's important to stop, think, observe, and plan. Use that essential gear you brought to stay warm, dry, and safe, and contact 911 on your emergency communication device. Remember, search and rescue in BC is free for everyone. Remember, safety is an outcome of good trip planning, training, and taking the essentials. It's your responsibility. So let's all do our part and be adventure smart.